Hey family, it's Tasha MAMABEAR prepping. You already know what time it is. Get your drink, pull up, let's talk about it. So I like when people try to come at me a certain type of way. Like, you talk about a lot of stuff that's not going to happen. You talk a lot about stuff that just, has never happened. Like the dollar's not going to crash. And, this whole thing with diseases and your obsession and none of this stuff actually happens. And like, what are you preparing for? And I'll tell you what. You should be nervous or take a pause every single time you hear of an outbreak. However, because there is so many opportunities for stuff to get into our country. Our borders are wide open, okay? Our borders are not safe. For us to think that nobody can just get through. I mean, yes, we always talk about the southern border, but I would venture that even Canadian border, these waterways, people come in with boats all the time. It's just not safe, right? And we are fighting a battle, fighting a drug battle, fighting all this stuff that comes over the border. But let me tell you, you will know, trust, because it only takes one, it only takes a little bit, sneaks across the border, comes through the border. I had a subscriber the other day was talking about how they work on the border. And they had a close friend who got sick with some mysterious disease that had never been heard of, had to be quarantined for a month, okay, until they got better, that they're always getting sick with various random things. So to think that an outbreak can't make it over here just with flight alone, with international flights alone, but our borders are wide open. They're not safe. So we talk about all the nasty stuff that could be coming through the border, and disease and infections and unknown stuff. You have folks coming from all different parts of the world, all different parts and countries, right? And so you have to take this stuff serious when you're thinking about your preps, thinking about preparedness, thinking about when you'd have to do stuff for yourself. Another example is our sky borders. I think everybody and their mother thought, oh, well, no big deal. We would shoot down any missiles that came our way. We would shoot down any, vessels that come our way, ships that get too close, subs that get too close, airplanes that get too close, especially after 9/11. Like, there's no way you're just going to be able to fly something. And come to find out, there's a whole airspace, a whole part of our sky borders, if you will, that was not being monitored, right? And maybe was being monitored in a certain way, but wasn't being reported. And now it's being monitored, and you're hearing all these stories of balloons and this and that, and you're hearing about these incursions and different stuff going on with Russia. Like, it's the second time now that we've had them flying into our airspace, right? And you have these other, unidentified objects. And I just think that it's sad. It's crazy, because there was this perception out there that, like, our borders are safe. You can't get in here. Everybody wants to come to America, but it's hard. You have to, come in the right way. And you had mules, and you had people who were digging tunnels to get people in, right? Like, it wasn't easy. And you couldn't, this perception that you can't just fly in our airspace. You can't just be above us, looking at us and coming in. And come to find out, yes, you could, right? It's wide open. Nobody was watching that stuff, and they're watching it now, and they're seeing all this crazy stuff that's happening now. And I can assume that it's probably happening still, but they're getting very sick and tired of talking to it with the public. And so now they're probably like, look, it's no big deal. We're just not going to talk about this anymore because it's ridiculous. Unless, of course, they want us to look over there in that direction to take our eyes off of something else. So how do you prepare? Well, you keep doing the things that you've been doing. You think about how easy things can make it into this country, and how direly important it is to prepare medically, medicines, vitamins, immune boosting stuff, virus stuff, PPE, protective gear. That has to be a must. You have to get that. We already saw what happened when we started dealing with something and people could not get their hands on stuff, and people were desperate, right? Desperate to make stuff, Googling how to recipes for stuff. I mean, everything was cleaned out on the shelves, and people were desperate to get their hands on stuff, right? And even Amazon, you'd go on there and everything was getting switched to, like, no, you had to be a medical professional to be able to get stuff, right? Or a medical place, right? Place of business. And so I think it's important. There's not much to do about the sky stuff, and just hope that we have stuff on lock enough that the important stuff we would absolutely stop, right? Like an incoming missile, we wouldn't miss that, right? Like an incoming like that balloon was a big deal, right? The fact that we let it, you know, I'm not going to say shooting it down over the United States was the wrong decision. What I think was bad in the first place is that we let it get over our airspace in the first place, right? We should have identified it, and we should have warned them. And then if they didn't change their, you know, they didn't rudder and course correct, right? And haul but the other way, the other direction away from us, that we would then shoot it down, and we would warn that we're going to shoot you down if you don't move this. And if they're like, well, we can't, it's a weather balloon, we can't, because that's what they said at first, was that it's a weather balloon. You know, we have no way of controlling it. Well, that's unfortunate is what I would be saying. That's real unfortunate, because that bad boy's coming down. So that's our bad, 100% intel wise, security wise, everything that, you know, and it tells me our borders aren't safe. They just let this thing come into our country. And because it made it in, you know, the determination was that we're just going to let it go, and we just had to let it go across all these states and all these sites. And, you know, at the end of the day, it is what it is. But it proves my point that nothing is safe. And so don't live in this bubble like we're untouchable, we can't be touched, we can't. Do you know how easy it is to just have something like that, or have these unidentified objects that just would float in? And they could really make them look like certain things, like hot air balloons, that like, oh, somebody's just got hot air balloons at low levels, right? That could have chemicals in them, right? Easily chemicals, biological, and just release this stuff. You know how many cities are right on the coast that they wouldn't even have to go in that far to do something? It's just crazy, you know, to think. I don't know if you know, boats, ships, enemies, they can pull right up. Yeah, maybe they're not in our waterways, but they're close enough to shoot something off. And so, and I'm not saying that we're so naive that our government is so incompetent that they're not tracking that stuff, tracking those ships, tracking those subs, tracking things. Of course they are. That much I have faith in. But what I will tell you is, do not be naive and complacent. You need to start preparing. You need to start making sure that you have stuff in your house, so that when stuff does go down, when the disease comes and it comes through an open border like that, and it just, I mean, think about those border agents, the exposure that they get every single day from all types of stuff. They then go home to their families, their children, and hug their children. Their children then go to birthday parties. The children go to sporting events. Their children go to school. Wife goes to work. Maybe she goes to church. Maybe she goes shopping. Maybe she goes here, there, right? And they're just, everybody's just spreading it. And let it be something that, you know, it's a longer incubation time, and you can do that trace back, but by then that bad boy's all over the country. And let it be something, you know, we know that this is coming, right? And there is such easy ways to deliver this to the American people, with open borders and all this stuff, right? So the delivery is much easier to bring stuff over, all of the nasty stuff. And so now is the time to really buckle down and get the things you need, fill the holes you need. Think about PPE, think about pandemic, think about the things that you wanted or needed during the pandemic. Think about how that changed your life, a lockdown, a quarantine. Think about if hospitals were overran and you had to take care of your loved ones yourself, your family members yourself. There was no doctor to go to. There was no hospitals to go to. How would you handle those? You know, think about symptoms and how do you treat symptoms? Those are the things that you buy over the counter. Whatever symptoms, a lot of this really nasty, deadly stuff, you know, vomiting and diarrhea and all this stuff, you get all the things to treat those things individually, right? Did pox videos before several times, did all the different grocery lists of different things to get for that. You have Marburg going on right now. So far right now, they're containing that, right? There's not an overabundance of more deaths since I reported that on a couple days ago. But just keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on it, on everything. That's what we do. We just keep an eye on things over here, so that we're ahead of it even a little bit, right? And just know that, you know, we're a little bit more vulnerable than maybe perceptions have been in the past, right? And I think our sky borders and the stuff that's happening above us, everybody's like, oh, what is that about? Is that, you know, bread and circuses? Is that real? Is that, what is it about? And I think just simply the most important part of that is understanding how it unfolded, and that they're truly understanding that there's airspace that they were not paying attention to. And that airspace can be dangerous. That airspace can have objects come into it that can be delivery systems, and can come through quietly and bring stuff in. And that's unfortunate. I mean, now it's a little bit better because you have so many citizens that have social media and are looking at the skies and doing stuff. And so it's harder to just hide stuff, right? Because people are paying attention. But baby, you know, you got to pay attention. It's super important. Okay. Our borders aren't safe on a lot of different levels, and you have to make sure that you take it into your hands to do what you need to do to keep your family safe for the things that could come through those ways, through those avenues, to come and bring harm to us. Okay. So I hope you guys are having a great weekend, and I'll see you guys next week on the next video. Take care. Bye.